Hello everyone, welcome to day 10 of 28 Days of Love. I hope you had a great day celebrating and hopefully you're enjoying the weekend. So I'm going to dive right into today. I want to tell you a bit about how today's topic came about because I find it kind of a fascinating story. And one kind of connected to maybe an aha moment that I had over the last few days. And so, in case you're wondering, I've chatted with some of you. I threw this together so quickly, and I'm kind of planning it as I go. It's not a matter of I planned these whole 28 days out and then decided to roll it out to you. I said I'm going to do this, and I'm just working every day at it. And so I have, a list of topics that I want to cover over the 28 days, but not necessarily in any order. And I like to often go with the flow, if you know me well, and rely on divine guidance. So that's what I've been doing. And I was kind of leaning towards talking about acceptance today. And I've really noticed, like a lot of you, a lot of shifts and really noticing things about myself and things that I've gone through over the past few days, just having these, realizations and whatnot, just shifting and growing, just like all of you are. And part of my celebration, I guess, was to, I bought myself a new deck of cards. So I got this hello Bailey, I got this new deck called The Soul's Journey, and it jumped out at me right away. So I got the deck, and yesterday I cleared them and I shuffled them and I pulled my first card. And the card that came up was grief. And this is it here. And then this morning I again grabbed the same deck and I shuffled the cards. And of course, guess what card I pulled was this one again. Okay, Bailey. And so I thought, okay, interesting. So a couple things about pulling this card. Acceptance is a part of this. So it ties in there, it's connected there. But I also felt like perhaps maybe there are some of you in this group that are dealing with something right now that is causing a lot of grief, and perhaps I can bring something in with a deeper understanding of grief or some processes to deal with grief that can help you. And when I started to think about that, I realized that in researching and putting together material for this, I found a great article, which the link is in the email, and it talks about the 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. And I realized that over this past few days, doing this work even myself, realizing that some of the experiences that I've been working through over the past 6 months even, that I was not completing one of those 5 stages. I realized over the last few days that I actually still had a little bit of anger over a couple situations that, I went through the denial, I went through that depression, I went through the bargaining and the acceptance, but I actually didn't allow myself to be angry. And so I had an opportunity the last few days to recognize that and process those feelings and then let them go and complete that whole cycle of the 5 stages. So that was a big aha moment for me, and so I'm really grateful that I pulled this card because it definitely helped me to see that from a different perspective and recognize that, okay, I still have some work to do on a couple of things here, and I now feel like I've done that, it's complete, and I can completely let it go. So that's really great. And then again, of course, perhaps there are some of you that are going through things. And grief, in some of the materials, and when we talk about grief, often there's a big connection to grief with dealing with loss of a loved one, or somebody passing away. So that is part of what we're going to talk about today. But grief can also come from, loss of other things, loss of a job, even loss of, material things, even though, we're trying to not focus on material things. Whenever we lose something that we have an attachment to, it can cause a lot of grief. And so I just want to read to you what the card says is, I understand that losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. And I'll just show you again. And I love that it's orange, which kind of connects to the sacral chakra, which I'm not going to get too far into that. We'll do that another day. But of course, all of these cards come with a book that give, a little bit more reference as to what the meaning or the symbolism behind the card could be. So in addition to what I picked up from it, I will read to you what is in the book. So it says, nothing is gone forever. The belief that we have lost someone or something is merely an illusion to assist us in learning to appreciate our having had it in the first place. The emotion of grief and the sense of loss are absolutely real, but that is the point. The lesson of loss is not about the actual physical separation, because the parting is temporary and illusory. The point of the lesson is to acknowledge that the bonds of love never end and that we have not been abandoned. When you accept in your heart that you will be reunited with everything you have ever loved, it will give you the ability to move beyond your grief and derive something beneficial from the experience. To wallow in grief is to pass up the opportunity that you and your soul family have devised and learn nothing from it. Instead, allow your grief to take you to a place of deeper understanding. So I thought that was really beautiful and very fitting, and that's why I chose to have the topic of grief as our focus for today. So, we had a couple of light days of self-care and celebration, and now let's start to dig into there again. And so as I mentioned, I included a link to a really good article that talks about the 5 stages of grief. And I've also included a link to another Sadhguru video. I hope you love him as much as I do. I just find that I love that he just says everything so simple and in a way that really makes you see things differently, and yet in a way that it totally makes sense. I don't know, I just find him very profound. So he has a video where he talks about, grief and specifically around how to deal with grief and when it's related to losing a loved one as well. And so this might be a good time to introduce some more Sadhguru resources. So I have yet another book. You have quite a reading list if interested. So this book is called Inner Engineering, A Yogi's Guide to Joy. And I read this book almost a year ago, last March. And this took me to a whole new level, this book. I couldn't put it down. It completely created a huge shift for me personally, to where I started to see things so differently and in such a better way. And I am going to read it again this year. It's just such a great book. The other thing, and I've included this in the email, but there is also an online course called Inner Engineering as well. So it's connected to the book. They kind of cross over. And I've done a lot of trainings in person, online, and this course, this online Inner Engineering course, is by far the best training I have ever taken. And it was $150. Like, I couldn't even believe it. I've done online courses that, were $800, $1,200, and what I took away from this was 100 times more than anything I've gotten from any other training. And so the great thing about this online course is that it is 7 modules. So you sign up online, you get a login, and you have your own little web, I guess, learning page. And you can do it at your own pace. So there are 7 modules. And ideally you want to be able to sit down for, if I remember right, it's about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half at the most, without any disruptions, where you can first listen to him speak, so a video of him speaking about a different topic. And then at the end of that, he guides you through a meditation. And then there are 3 questions for you to answer about you, your life, and related back to what he just spoke about. And then once you complete that, it unlocks the 2nd module and the 3rd module and so on. And so you could complete this over a few days, a few weeks, a few months. I was so drawn to it and impressed by it that I think I finished it in less than a week. And along with the 7 modules, there's also links in there to other short little, 3-minute, 5-minute videos, much like the ones that you can see on YouTube. But I highly, highly, highly recommend take that online course if you can. It is so worth every penny, and I don't know, I think there's so much value in it. So I've got the link to the website for the online course in there. Check it out. It actually tells you kind of what's covered in each of the 7 modules. And it's something that I would even do again. Because I think, we go through this stuff, we start to learn and shift our perspectives, and we start to implement these things, and we grow. And then we kind of fall back into patterns again, and then we need to keep growing. And so sometimes we can go back to something we've already done and have a completely different experience of it, right? I remember a couple of years ago reading a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And the first time I read it, I hated it. It irritated me. I found it so hard to get through. It was a struggle. I did it. And then a couple months later, I read it again, and I thought it was the greatest book in the world, right? So sometimes it depends what you're going through at the time, how it might impact your perception or your perspective of the book or what you're reading. But it's interesting to go back to certain things and re-experience them and see how it's different. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. So I did put your homework in there. So again, it's taking some time to come back to yourself, starting to come inside and start to think about some of the challenges that you've been through over the last week, the last few months, or even the last few years. And think about especially times when you were grieving. And then look at those 5 stages and, ask yourself, did you actually go through all those 5 stages? Or do you find yourself like me where you kind of missed one and you haven't completed that whole process, to be able to actually let it go? So that's your homework, and you can journal about it. The other thing that I did is, I know a lot of you are interested in the cards. And so I put on the website last night, on my website, a new workshop called Cards and Crystals. And it is on Tuesday, February 27th from 7 to 9 p.m. And you can bring your own cards and crystals if you have them. If you don't, that's okay. I have plenty here that we can play with. And we're going to talk about how to choose your crystals and your cards. They actually choose you, but we'll talk about that, clearing them, cleansing them, programming them, what they're used for, how to do card readings for ourselves, how to do them for others, and we're going to just have some fun and start to open up our intuition a bit more. So if you're interested in that, the link will be in the email. That'll take you to the website if you want to register for that. And I think that's it. So have a fabulous day. Enjoy the first part of your weekend, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new topic.